Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit South Node conjunct one's natal Black Moon Lilith. Now, when we're talking about the South Node in transit in astrology, it can manifest in what we're going away from. And since this is involving the Black Moon Lilith energy, it could be going away from some cases a very formidable adversary. It might be some cases in the seventh house. It could be some legal opponent. Capricorn in the seventh house. It might be an older legal opponent or somebody that was in a position of authority. It may be a Capricorn Sun, Moon, or Ascendant person, or one that embodies those characteristics. This could also be about leaving a person or a person that may be leaving you that might have figured prominently in your life scheme for better or for worse. It could actually be somebody that figured in a provocative manner in your life. It might have been actually somebody that was beneficial to you, but it could have been somebody that was really played an integral role maybe in some woes or some problems that you may have gone through as well. If this is, let's say, I mean, you could look at this too. I mean, the Black Moon Lilith could also be about suffering as well. And if there's some kind of suffering that you may have been dealing with, I mean, if it's in the ninth house, it could have been through a foreigner or some foreign travel. Maybe it was, I mean, 10th house could be one's career, as an example, or matters with the with the dominant parent, which is often the father. Say if this is in Pisces and you have in the 10th house, it may be going away from dealing with a rather nebulous or unclear dominant parent, or could be one that might have been involved in drugs or in alcohol. Some other things too is that the Black Moon Lilith in astrology is associated with the dark side of the sign. I mean that it is in, and it could be the really strong negative manifestation of that zodiac sign. If this is in Leo, for example, it might be going away. Like say you have it in the fourth house, it might be going away from very domineering, maybe even tyrannical qualities on the home front, or even a person in your home life that was overbearing or domineering or controlling. It could be something too where when you look at the Black Moon Lilith in astrology can also reflect what may put one in a strong state of fright or trepidation. And I have mine in Leo in my natal chart. So it could, and I have it in the fourth house, not far from the fifth house cusp. So for me, I mean, the state of trepidation, I mean, being in Leo, maybe it has something to do with being gregarious, being extroverted, getting some kind of attention or recognition or accolades for things that I have the fourth house that I'm close to home with, maybe matters in my home life. It could be, I mean, obviously it could manifest in a multitude of ways. For different people that may have that placement that I described, like what I have. Now, another thing too is that this is something too as well. I mean, looking at this, the Black Moon Lilith is also associated with very erotic sexual energy. So what happens is when you have a transit like this, it may be going away from that erotic side. If you have this in Taurus, it could be very, more very sensual type of erotic energy. And it could also be going away again from the negative manifestation associated with the sign that it is in, and even the house. This is something too where, I mean, Black Moon Lilith is also associated with what we don't want unveiled. It might be something that we're trying to suppress or keep hidden. Now, looking at this, the fact that it's about what we don't want, often what we don't want to come out. I mean, if this is in Aries, It could be, some kind of, volatile temperament or some explosive energy. Maybe it could be somebody that was involved in arson at one time. Say if this is in the 12th house of imprisonment, or even the 8th house associated with crime. It could be somebody that may have been involved with arson or fire somehow, or maybe involved in a shooting. I mean, this could manifest in a number of ways. Now, let's say, and also too, this is it could also reflect, some area in life that we're trying to extricate oneself from. Now, me having Leo in the fourth, it could be maybe a situation where I don't have my dominance in my home life, where I feel like I don't necessarily have that control necessarily. It could be also. I mean, let's take an example on this. Let's say somebody has this in Pisces in their 8th house, right? Now, this could be an issue that might have involved something fraudulent, which is Pisces, and insurance, which is the 8th house, or even evasion, which could be Pisces, and taxes, which is the 8th house. It could be going away from that situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that you were the one guilty of that, but maybe somebody tried, something with you, or maybe as far as filing something fraudulent as far as an insurance goes, and putting your doing something maybe in connection with your name, and you didn't have any you didn't sign something, income. It could be you're talking about evasion of taxes. Yeah, something like that would be more from the person in question, though, in a situation like this. But it could also manifest in credit card fraud, where maybe you were the victim of it, because remember, the 8th house is about, could be connected with credit cards, and Pisces is associated with deception and fraud. So anyway, and in another situation too, as far as the evasion of taxes, as an example, say for in some isolated cases, this person is with somebody they're in an intimate relationship with, and it's some kind of joint resources scenario. It could be possible in some cases that that person might be involved in some activity where they weren't necessarily filing all the taxes, or maybe paying them, being evasive maybe on taxes you may have owed with that person, and not paid everything. So you could call that in its own way the evasion of taxes, if you understand what I'm saying, not paying them. Now, another thing too. Another way this can manifest and pan out. Say if this is in Scorpio, in the 3rd house in your natal chart, it could be a stalker in the neighborhood. Maybe that comes to an end, or a completion or culmination. Remember that the South Node is not necessarily negative, because the South Node can be about what we're going away from. But at times, though, it can be about overdeveloped attributes and redundant energy and negative energy. It could adversely impact that astrological energy that's coming into contact with, and bring out the very negative energy of that point that it's hitting. Now, let's say, for example, you have this transit happen in Sagittarius in your 5th house. Now, it might exacerbate maybe reckless foolhardy, which is Sagittarius, gambling, lovers, which is the 5th house, matters pertaining to gambling and lovers. It might be, and also to it, again, it can exacerbate existing issues associated with the Black Moon Lilith placement by sign and house. Let's say you have this in Libra in your 10th house in your natal chart. This could be about perhaps ingratiating yourself, maybe putting on some superficial charm, which is Libra, to attain maybe a greater social status, a stature in life, a career position. which is the 10th house. Hold on a moment, people. And when you're talking about South Node energy, it could also reflect an energy we may become very complacent and self-satisfied, overly comfortable with. And when you have this hitting, the transit South Node hitting the Black Moon Lilith, it could be in our own erotic sexual nature in Leo. In the 5th house, as an example, it could be about very, flamboyant, sexual expression. It could be through dancing or some entertainment venue, being if you have this in Leo and in the 5th house. But the key to remember is when you're becoming overly comfortable with something, which is a South Node, it's about going to the opposite point, which of course is the transit of the North Node. And in that example, it would be going to the North Node in Aquarius in the 11th house energy, which could manifest in more selfless energy, collective efforts in groups, clubs, organizations, not necessarily being about really flamboyant or attention-seeking energy, but doing things with more altruism, more group-related activities, and not worried about any being flaunting anything, being recognized for what you're doing, understanding that what you're doing, and it doesn't have to necessarily be about getting accolades or being or gaining exposure for what you're doing. So that would be a way that can manifest and pan out. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.